Anna. Welcome back to my YouTube channel and a Happy New Year to you. So we're going to make 2 cards. I know Christmas is over, but last year I was sick and in the hospital and couldn't do the one idea I had with this little bunny rabbit from the, I believe it's called Scooped stamp set. But I'll have all the stamp sets listed below, even if they're retired, because you may have them at home. You never know. And then I came up with another idea for a card in between last year and this year, so I thought I would do them both. So they're both going to be light up cards, and the 2 main characters are going to be these 2 bunnies. So we have the bunny who's sticking his tongue out to lick the ice cream cone, but we're not using the ice cream cone. Remember, these are holiday related. And then we have this bunny that's laying out like a starfish, tanning in the sand. And we did not need the ice cream cone. We did not need the starfish necklace. In the final bunny for the starfish, you'll see that he doesn't have the starfish necklace. But I wanted to show you really quick how I made his little Santa suit, because it's really simple. So I put black buttons on and made a belt at about waist level and made my little fluffy ends for the Santa suit at the ankles and the wrists. Color in black feet and black hands for the gloves and boots. Made a fluffy neckline and colored him red with white glazed jelly roll pens for his fluff on his suit and hat. Now the scarves, the hat, the earmuffs, they all came from a die set from my stash. The presents that I needed I'm going to use from this stamp set, which I also could not remember the name of, but I'll put it up on the screen for you guys or down below in the description box if I forget. I also needed a flagpole. That's what's used in the movie. Both of these cards are based on movies, but I didn't have one, so we're going to use this street light instead. Serves the same purpose. And if you know, before I tell you, or before we get to the end of the video, which of course I won't be able to tell, but you guys are on your honor now, leaving a comment below listing what movies you think these 2 cards are from. And we'll go from there. So here I am decorating all my bunnies. I took bunnies from different stamp sets. The Hip Hop Squad, the little bunny with the airplane hat. Just his head though, because he was sitting in an airplane, so I had to kind of strategically place him because he had no body. Okay, so I just wanted a regular background for this that kind of fit the theme. Nothing is exact, so you just got to go through your stash when you want to make something like this, when something like a movie gives you an idea, and you just want to pull things that would fit the theme, but not exactly, you know, unless you have the items exactly, which I did not. I know I sound silly today. And I used hickory smoke pumice stone to ink up my brick wall. Pumice stone I thought was gray, but comparing it to the hickory smoke, I now realize it is a brownish tan. And I believe Marianne and I had a conversation about that, and I have to say she was right. You were right, Marianne. It is not gray. Moving on, I just kind of fit my stencil in there on either side to make it stretch, because this is a 5x7 card. I wanted to make sure I had enough room for all the bunnies. And now I'm going to use my snot tape, yes, that's what it's called, and move it up so I can ink out the sidewalk. And I'm using iced spruce for that. You don't end up seeing too much of the sidewalk in the end. I ended up placing some snowbanks on there, and you'll see why in a few minutes. Okay, so here is our little guy already glued to the light post. And can anybody tell what he's doing yet with his little tongue sticking out? And we're going to start placing our friends in the scene. I really had fun doing these 2 cards. I wish I could have gotten the video out before Christmas, but I was not going to make you guys wait another year, and I did not want to wait another year to make this card. Like I said, I had the idea for this card last year. So I just thought all the different colored bunnies with all their different colored winter accessories was a lot of fun. I did pull a talking bubble stamp. I have no idea where it came from. It's actually been sitting in a little drawer on my desk by itself. And I think this is the first time I've actually used it, so I could put in my own words because I had no stamps at all that would fit what I wanted my characters to say. So this is the One Light, the Pear Blossom Press One Light. This is the first time I'm using a One Light. It was extremely simple. Here I'm showing you if you place a piece of acetate in there and you place it on your card so it sticks out to the edge, you can have your recipient pull the acetate out and it saves on the battery. It won't accidentally light up when you're sending it. And also you're able to replace the battery if you want. So whenever I can, I try to make sure that I place that battery pack where both of those things can happen. So now I have my light post guy there, and I want to mark where the light is going to go and where the push button is going to go. So I just lifted it up a tiny bit, made a little tiny pencil dot for the push button, and then because I put my acetate on my light before I made the mark, I did the same thing to get the mark for my light. And then I used my 1/8 inch punch to make a little hole. I wanted to be able to see the whole light, so I just poked my little craft tweezers in there until it was wide enough. Now I'm going to glue him in place. No wires, no anything. You just place that where you want it to go, and that's it. Now the downside to the One Light is if you want to be able to replace the battery, it's not always possible because it's one light. So if you have your light needed in the middle of a card, of course you won't be able to reach it from there. But otherwise, the concept of one light bulb itself is amazing because I don't always need 3 lights like the Easy Light or 4 lights like the Halo Light. So I really enjoy these lights. I bought 2 packs of the lights and I'll probably be getting more very soon. So now I'm making my snowbanks because really this guy with the little airplane cap on, he had to go in the card because he had a hat on just like one of the kids in the movie. And I wanted him on that card so badly even though he had no little body. So I made him poking up from behind the snowbanks. That way he could still be on the card so you could see his hat. Now I'm going to use some heavy-duty double-sided 1/4 inch adhesive to place my battery pack on the back side. I don't always use the card base. I use the front of my card, and then to place my battery pack, my foam tape, etc., I use another piece of cardstock and adhere them together before I place it on the card base. That way if I screw it up, I'm not screwing up my card base. So I'm placing double height foam tape there so that the battery pack and battery can fit there pleasantly without being squished. You want to use two levels of foam tape. If you don't, your light will always push on with the slightest touch of the card. It's just the way it is. It has just enough height where it needs 2 layers of height for foam tape. Now that that's all glued together and everything works properly, I'm going to add some glue to the back of that card and add it to the card base, or back of that panel and add it to the card base. I stamped out push here from one of my little interactive stamp sets, and here are my 2 little speech bubbles. One of them says, "I triple dog dare you," and one of them says, "Stuck, stuck, 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 stuck." Now, do you guys know what it is? Yes, I'm not the best actress. Moving on. I've got my Simon Says stamp T ruler here. I have a longer T ruler, but sometimes I would have to move everything on my desk to use it, so I went ahead and bought the Simon Says stamp one because it's shorter. And then inside I stamped Merry Christmas, and because this was going to my son, I put "Don't shoot your eye out, kid." So did anybody guess it? That's right, it's a Christmas story. Congrats to you who know your old-time television and movies. Moving on, I took a set of Christmas lights from my stamp stash, stamped out about 5 straight ones, and then curved this one. I need it curved and pliable. This was the best I could do while stamping, but I figure once I fussy cut around it, it'll be more pliable than it is now, and I won't rip it if I'm careful. So I colored all the bulbs in the same order, so I went red, yellow, blue, green over and over again. Yes, very boring. But I saved the straight lights so that you could see the colors I used. 2 colors per bulb. You could most certainly get away with 1 color per bulb, especially since in the end I decided to cover them all up. Yes, you can still see them, but I covered them up with like raindrop, teardrop, clear gems, and can't really see the multiple shading colors on the tiny bulbs once you do that. So I guess it was all for nothing. But just in case somebody wanted to see the colors, there they are. So I hope everybody had a happy holiday. I was trapped in my house during Winter Storm Elliott. We got about 8 feet of snow total. It was not a fun time. Okay, so here we have all my lights, and I made sure I fussy cut them out, and I went over the edges with a black marker so it would look more finished. And I also have my T-square ruler here because I'm going to just sketch out a rooftop with a chimney. And this card doesn't take after a scene in a movie like the first one did. This one takes after the movie poster, or maybe one of many movie posters. And just popped in my head. I thought of my little starfish bunny, and it popped in my head. So I had to do it. So now I took a piece of vellum and I traced out what I sketched out on the card front panel. And by the way, this card is a regular A2 size card. And now I'm cutting out that piece of vellum so that I can then trace it on a piece of masking paper and use the masking paper to cover up my housetop, because I'm going to ink blend the night sky and I don't want to get any on my as of yet uncolored house. I'm not going to show you the coloring of my house just because this video is so long already with 2 light up cards, 2 intricate cards, and ink blending and coloring, so I cut a lot of that coloring out. So a lot of the ink blending too. So first I had to decide where my bunny was going to go. So I placed him and traced around him. And I knew he would be put back there, so I didn't worry too much about the pencil lines. So I'm starting off with Skylight, and I'm going according to the poster. So I matched up the colors as best I could. And I started off with the Skylight, and then Catherine Pooler's Daydream. And these two, there was not a lot of them. It looked like in the poster it was mostly a dark night sky with only a little bit of light left, if that makes any sense. So then we switched over to Something Borrowed, Suede Shoes, and then finally at the top, Dress Blues. And it took a lot of going back and forth. I pulled out all the blending brushes I had. I have like 2 of them I used for blues, maybe 3. Green, well, maybe 5 between the green blues and the blues. And then my bigger Rabbit Hole Designs brush. And I even had to pull out one I bought at Dollar General because I didn't have enough. So here we go here. Now I'm going to go over my pencil lines for the rooftop and the chimney with a black permanent like marker pen. This is just a generic set I got off of Amazon, similar to Micron. So there's my sketched out house, and here it is all colored in. I'll show you how I put the bricks on the chimney, and I did it freehand because the bricks aren't perfect. I mean, bricks aren't perfect. They really aren't. So I tried to color it with blues and tried to make it so it looked like siding by putting shading underneath each line of siding. Okay, so here I'm going to measure out my lights so I can glue them in place. So there's some trimmed across both sides edges of the rooftop. I was going to add snow to the chimney and the top of the roof because there was some in the movie poster, and decided against it after everything we put on at the end, but I'll show you. I'll talk about that when we get there. So there's both of my house lights, both sets of my house lights. Now I couldn't decide, easy lights, halo lights. For my lights that I wanted to light up in the center here, they're going to be wrapped around the bunny. So I decided to go with the halo lights because there was 4 lights on those, and easy lights only have 3. I like the easy lights better because you can put your lights exactly where you want. I trimmed the back panel slightly smaller so I could line it up exactly where it needed to be after all was said and done. I'll get back to the other, my light comparison in a moment. I also decided to try and use tin foil on both sides, the back of my card front and the front of the card panel that's going to meet the card front, so that it would kind of reflect the light. Don't use tape. This was a mistake on my part, especially with the cheap tin foil. It was such a pain in the butt to get the backing off of the tape. I should have just used glue. I don't know why I didn't. So save yourself the trouble, use glue. So the comparison on the lights, I decided to go with the halo lights because there was 4, but I would have rather preferred putting them exactly where I wanted them. There's my push button. I measured that out. You saw me poke a hole so I wouldn't forget where it was. And after all was said and done, I decided to use 2 sets of lights, so you guys will see that as well. But first, here I am wrapping the lights as well as I can around the bunny without ripping anything. Like, I would have liked to have entangled his legs 2 or 3 times each and whatnot, and around his waist, but he's a tiny bunny as it is, and there's only so much you can do. So I just made it work as best I could, and then cut off the extra lights when I was done. And then he is going to get glued back in right over top of where we traced in his saved spot. Now I'm showing you this What's That Sound sentiment from this stamp set, which I also cannot remember the name of, so I'll make sure it's on the screen for you guys. That's going to go on the inside of our card with a little bit of a squirrel tail showing, because that's a telltale movie clue. That's what that is there, guys. What's that sound? Do you hear it? It's a funny, squeaky sound. So you guys should be able to guess by now what the movie is. That's going to be on the inside. Here on the outside, I am placing another stamp set from one of the newer, or another sentiment from one of the newer stamp sets from this year. I believe it came out this summer. It says, "There's no place like home for the holidays," which I thought was a cute sentiment for this movie. Kind of fits together. So there's my bunny wrapped up in lights. We're going to glue him into his proper spot. And you see he has blown his hat off his head because that's glued up there as well. I don't think there was as many presents on the movie poster, but there was also a Santa's gift bag, and I did not put that on my card. So I made up for it with presents. Now I'm going to put my halo lights in place. I put double-sided adhesive on the part that has the battery pack, and then liquid adhesive on the circle part of the halo light. Glued it in place. And now I'm just I line up my front panel with the halo lights on the back, and that didn't work. So I pulled out this other halo light, and I'm trying to mark where I need my lights to shine. So what was the best light bulb in the string of lights that was closest to the lights on the halo lights? So that's what I did. And then I made the holes a little bit bigger so I could punch them with my 1/8 punch and show as much of that light shining through as I could. So this is at the point where I decided that I was going to put a set of easy lights into the card as well. So I have that all marked for my push button, and so that it will stick off the edge of the card, but it didn't matter because you can't replace this battery because it's too far up from the bottom, and I needed it placed this way. So unfortunately, you can replace the light and the halo, or the battery and the halo lights for this one, but not in the easy lights. So here I am just using my Easy C tape and coiling my lights into place in the 3 pin pricked spots that I needed them. I poked them all like I did with the halo lights so I would know where to put my lights on the inside panel, excuse me. And then I'll check it once everything's taped down, make sure everything works and all my lights are lined up. And then there's another present with the word push on it. Here are my teardrops, or raindrops if you want to call them that. They come clear, but I colored mine with Copic markers to match the colors they would be being glued on. And now I'm putting down my double-sided adhesive and carefully going around my lights. Be sure when you're cutting your foam tape you don't go near any wires of your lights. I have done that once. Snipped one of my light wires apart. I was not a happy camper. I still have that set of easy lights waiting for something where I only need 2 lights because the other 2 still work. So once I have all my tape down, I'm also going to add a couple pieces to the inside of the halo light. I also figured that adding tape would kind of block off some of the light escaping out the sides as well, and it did. It worked a little bit for the halo lights. Once those were all dry, I glued the whole contraption to the front of a blue card base. If you notice closely, I added clear teardrops or raindrops to the rest of the lights as well. It just didn't look right with only the lighted lights having the enameled drops on them. So I added them to all. And if you haven't guessed the movie by now, it is National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. I hope you guys like what you saw here today. Don't forget to sign up for the Rabbit Hole Designs email and follow every one of us on Instagram because the design team has inspiration daily on Instagram. And don't forget to get your very own set of pear blossom lights, whether it's easy lights, halo lights, or one light, because they are so much fun to play with. I'll see you next time, guys. Bye-bye for now.